The 10inaRow Celtic Show is a HailHailMedia production featuring Paul Larkin and Graham Wilson, so it may contain sweary words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Good morning, Vietnam! Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll. Time to rock it from the Delta to the DMZ. Is that me or does that sound like an Elvis Presley movie? Viva Da Nang. Oh, Viva Da Nang. Denying me. Why don't they get a rope and hang me? Hey, is it a little too early for being that loud? Hey, too late. It's 0600. What's the O stand for? Oh, my God, it's early. Speaking of early, how about that Cro-Magnon, Marty Drywitz? Thank you, Marty, for silky smooth sound. Make me sound like Peggy Lee.
All right, welcome to the 10inaRow Celtic Show, number 10. A proper number 10. Not the number 10 like we had the last time, where we just vented. Didn't even matter anyway because we went through. What a waste of time. I guess it really wasn't. We got all of our thoughts off our chest, and then I developed a bit of a bug, which I thought was going to be good luck. And, tagging on from the second leg against Karagandhi last year, I had the flu. I got the flu again on my birthday this time. I thought I was taking one for the team. It came good in the end. Joining us as always from the sunny banks of the Leith. It's the green and white writer, Mr. Paul Larkin. How are you, Paul?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good evening. Good afternoon. This is great. I love the soundtrack that we've used this season.
Fantastic. Yeah, everybody's hand should be in the air.
And I don't think anybody understands what this is. We haven't gotten one comment about it.
No. And there's a massive clue with the outro song we play.
That's true. That's a good point.
And the general style of the show.
That's a good point.
So we'll see if anybody gets it from that.
Very good. So we're available for follow-up on that. You might probably noticed on the intro there, we tribute to Robin Williams. Of course, we got very sad news on, I believe it was Tuesday evening here in the United States that Robin Williams had passed away. So we thought it would be appropriate to tribute him with a great sound clip from a fantastic movie, Good Morning Vietnam. And our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to his family.
Yeah.
But we have the 10inaRow, as I mentioned, the proper 10th and final episode.
You try to give people a heart attack.
Wait till we get going. 10inaRow Celtic Show, we have 10 topics. We have 5 minutes to discuss each topic. And at the end of said 5 minutes, get a clacks on. Clacks on.
Clacks off.
That means it's time to move on. Paul, are you ready?
Clacks on, clacks off.
Mr. Miyagi. Fantastic. Yeah. First topic, 3-0 St. Johnson. A good result, and season's off. A win's a win. I saw you tweet that. Obviously, there were points of this game that were, I think you would probably classify them as less than a thing of beauty, but, a result's a result. Early doors, and certainly it was much improved from our last couple of games, no doubt. Your thoughts?
Well, it's 3-0 wins in a row now, Graham, so we can't really grumble at that.
No.
But, it was... I think the big question is, were we much better than last week, or is the SBL just utterly dreadful? You know what, I'm kind of thinking it's the latter, because St Johnstone just offered absolutely nothing. Yeah, they've just lost Stevie May. £1 million to Sheffield Wednesday. They were just so punchless. At times we were so lethargic and so leggy, particularly in the first half. I just think to myself, I said, if they actually step it up here, we're in serious trouble. Fortunately, you just had that kind of thug, Dave Mackay, just kind of sauntering about, annoying people. But just at the point where I thought Sir Johnson were going to step it up second half, we get the goal. Credit to Chris Commons, for a great challenge on the guy. That's exactly what should be happening.
Absolutely.
And good finish for Stokes as well.
Yeah, no question.
No easy, that kind of thing, to keep the composure. And, you see straight for the goal, the confidence that it starts to soar again. You know what I mean? And that in football is such a confidence game.
Mm-hmm.
And we got another couple of goals. You could have probably had another couple more. Doesn't take anything away from the fact that the performance wasn't kind of up to standard. But as I say, at the end of the day, Ronnie Dyler, I think the context there, Graham, was that we were all looking at that game tonight thinking, we must win this game.
Absolutely.
We must win this game. Whereas if the pre-season had gone a lot better, albeit we're still in the Champions League, then I think you'd be saying to yourself, we'll take any kind of win, first game of the season, that kind of thing. I also think that if you'd said 2 weeks ago, 3-0 at McDermott Park, you would have snapped your hand off for it.
No question, absolutely.
But it's just the context there, Graham, as we all know, the performances and the general sort of despair that's been around the club in the last few weeks. So good result, average performance, but as I said, a win's a win.
Yeah, no question. I think a couple of points here. First off, I think we're suffering from, in addition to everything else, listen, we're not playing the best football that we have, certainly in the past couple of years. And I think that a huge component to that's been a knock-on, and something that can be a catalyst in coming back, is confidence. And the best way to sort of regain your confidence is by getting a win, just like this. It doesn't matter the terms of the win. Granted, we did get the rub of the green on several occasions. Dirk clearly dived in the box. It was embarrassing. I'd fine him a week's wages, but you get the result in the end. Certainly wasn't a penalty, down the other end, as was claimed by Andy Walker. Now I'm starting to see, exactly what you're talking about with regard to him. But the confidence that comes through of getting, an actual 3-0 victory, kept the clean sheet, which is huge, considering how leaky we've been at the back, but also found our shooting boots, so to speak. And like you said, it was a good goal. It was well taken by Stokes. We've seen several situations where Stokes has been in that situation, and he's maybe had sort of too many thoughts going in his head. Does he cut it back? Does he hold on to it too long? He said, no, I'm going to round the keeper. I'm taking this one myself. He put it away, which is great to see. And one observation that I had, and yes, there were moans and groans about many of the substitutions that were brought on today, the timing, and obviously the personnel. We were left with no strikers at the end, but one sort of glimmer of hope. Yes, this is shocking coming from me, but I'll share it anyway. Joe Ingeberget, I thought when he came on, I liked the fact that he was remaining more of an essential pattern, and he seemed to open them up just a bit more. It was a bit more direct. When Stokesy was on, it seemed as though he's trying to play the lone striker role, but he was drifting wide so often, and the only central channel player that was available was Chris Commons, and that's a lot of pressure to put on him, especially when the timing of the advance is a bit off kilter, as it is early days in Dyla's regime. It seemed as soon as Berget came on, he was able to do a couple of things. He held the ball up well in a couple of situations, and he distributed well. And I hopefully that's going to be a sign of good things to come. Like I said, glimmer of hope. I understand that Virgil van Dijk had some comments after the game about perhaps his future. That's concerning to me, but with some of the with one of the new signings we brought in from Manchester City, we'll have to see how this boy gets on. Obviously, he comes with a huge amount of praise, and that's just the reality of where we are just now.
Well, yeah, I think one of the most frustrating aspects of the game tonight is you see at times the difference Forrest makes, to this Celtic team with his pace and his directness, and you just think, for fuck's sake, can you get this guy fit, please, every single week? Because he makes such a difference, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Suddenly, as a Gary, he looked like himself again, and, things like that, and it's just different things. I actually thought... Johansson had a good game tonight on the basis that he was effectively running the midfield himself, because Beaton to me was just posted missing.
Absolutely.
For large parts of the game, and I'm sure, people listening and yourself, there was a collective gasp when we seen him going up to take the penalty. But he was like, what the fuck? But then, he's put away with aplomb, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I thought Johansson, he got the book to, but there was times where suddenly there was a ball went loose, the guy went through Johansson, boom, took him out. I like seeing that. That to me is a team player. So, yeah, I mean, look, we're not going to take much for this performance. We have struggled at McDermott Park in recent seasons, nothing less than the last game, of course, where we lost. We scored 3 goals, but we lost 3 goals last time. But, yeah, as I say, we'll take 3-0 at McDermott Park any time. So hopefully this is the little acorn that's going to come into an oak tree, Graham.
Acorns and oak trees. Next topic. Tony Watt was moved on. And, obviously we wish him the best with it. A bit of a conundrum, a bit of a confusing one. But really, the majority of Tony Watt's time as a Celtic player has been a confusing one. I mean, he came in with so much promise. Obviously, the goal, no specification is really needed for that. And then afterward, it seemed as though something developed within Tony Watt, or at least the people around Tony Watt and his superiors were observing something that they didn't like. But nonetheless, Tony Watt is no longer a Celtic player. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think Tony Watt's going to have to really get a grip of himself. I mean, that to me is the reality. I mean, the reason he is not a Celtic player right now is because senior management were absolutely appalled at his lack of fitness and general behaviour around the club, and that's a fact. That's the reason why he never played at the start of the pre-season and and so on, because he was not fit. It's as simple as that. And he then came back to Celtic and was just giving it the big time Charlie through various different, trips, which culminated in Hamburg. And I think that's when Ronnie Dyler was just like, "That's it, get rid of him."
Yeah.
And then he was gone. And it's a shame because I think people watched that game in Hamburg. Tony Watt was probably the best Celtic player on the pitch.
Yeah.
And he has got stuff to offer, but it's like, when on earth is the guy going to wake up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had the world by the balls 2 years ago. Scores the goal that, gets a phenomenal result for the club, and then came on the following Sunday, I believe, Graham, and equalised against St Johnstone, got us a draw, and that should have been it. You know what I mean? That should have been this platform and the springboard.
Off to the races.
But instead, it's like fucking, he says, I like a takeaway, and, I like a night out. Well, so do I, Tony, but I'm not a professional football player for Celtic.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And I'm not on $10,000 a week either.
Yeah, and it's just like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And it just seems like, his behaviour and his general attitude has just pissed off the Celtic management so much, which we know it pissed off Neil Lennon.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get rid of him quick enough. We know it pissed off the Lier's coach.
Yeah.
Who was back and forth. And it's clearly it pissed off Ronnie Dyler, even in that short time. And it's kind of like, if that doesn't wake him up, nothing will. But then you get to the stage where he's got a very good contract at Standard Liège and a decent club.
Yep.
And you just kind of wonder, will the light go off? Or will he just be continuing to be like, well, fuck them, if they didn't want me, I'll go here, and I'll do this, and I'll do that. And, I'm sure one day he'll look back and think, what on earth was I doing?
Absolutely. And I think that, everybody's been young once. Everybody's been, having that sort of mindset where they know everything. There's nothing that an elder or superior can pass along, and they're just busting my balls, to use an Americanism there. But you're right. At some point he's going to wake up and realize, fuck's sake, I had such an opportunity, and whether or not he can look back and say he blew it. He blew it for his Celtic opportunity. Who knows what the future is going to hold for Tony? And I'm starting to understand the logic behind sending him to Belgium last year, and some of the challenges there. Maybe a change of scenery would have done him good if he would have gone to. And it also speaks to the fact that they had a more sort of a disciplinarian type manager at Liège last year, so that maybe, if we send Tony to this place, he understands that he can't fuck with these sorts of personalities and sorts of people. Maybe he can learn to fly right, and it's completely backfired. And to your point, it's like, well, when is that switch ever going to go off where he gets it and he says, I need to start acting like a respectable human being, and stop being petulant and really take my career seriously, and not just my career seriously, but my role within a team seriously. I mean, it's almost like he's seen the example of like a Mario Balotelli, and he's thought, oh well, you know what, I have a sort of aura about me that's Mario Balotelli for Scotland, and I'm sorry, but in this particular setup here, that's just not going to work. Mario Balotelli is probably one of the most gifted strikers on the planet. But there's only maybe 4 or 5 clubs that would really, in good faith, take him in and feel like it would be worth putting up with his shit.
I mean, Graham, see, the other thing about that amplifies it for me is that Callum McGregor is the Mr. Hyde to Tony Watt's Dr. Jekyll.
Well, that's
there's a guy who's went down to Notts County, he's learned the game, he's got tougher, he's got bigger, he's got stronger. He's came by to say, like, 3 goals in 5 games, and he's not waiting on anybody. He's fucking grabbed the bull and just went, let's go.
Yeah.
And he's now one of the players where you can actually start to think you can hang your hat on him.
Yeah.
Because he can actually, he just seems to have a completely different outlook. And clearly Dyler spotted that instantly. He's put him in the big games. He's put him in the competitive games.
Consistently.
And Callum McGregor's rewarded him, you know what I mean? So that's how to do it. There's the pathway right there,
Yeah, no question. And I mean, that's a great point. I tweeted out, a bit earlier, I mean, the best thing about the Dyler regime so far is Callum McGregor. That's what you want from your youth players coming through. You would expect them to get a sense for what the culture is at the club and exemplify it, not sort of go off on their own and just fucking go Tonto, and any example. It's a huge shame. I mean, everybody had such high expectations for Tony Watt. Like I said, I mean, we wish him the best, but it's just, I mean, what else can you say?
Nothing.
Next topic, new signings, Paul. Or should we say loan deals? I don't know how you want to basically exemplify it. I mean, we can go down the list. I mean, Craig Gordon was brought in on a free. Now he's the number 1 keeper. It seems he was started tonight in front of Zaluska. That's got to be, cold water in Zaluska's face. No question, about that.
Yeah.
We brought in, as I mentioned just before, Joe Engelberget, who, flattered to deceive in his opening performance. And, now we have 2 new signings here just now with Alexander Tonev that we went after last summer. He opted to go to Aston Villa instead. Had an injury-plagued and underwhelming season with Aston Villa. And we've also brought in a player that's been likened to Vincent Kompany, Jason Denayer. I don't know if it's pronounced Denayer or Denayer.
As Denayer, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not a Denayer then. I mean, I'll wait until I see him.
I mean, the thing about it is, Craig Gordon, it's all cliche. Well, if it's a Craig Gordon old and he gets fit, he'll be fine, and he would be. And you're talking about Zaluska there. I mean, do you think Zaluska will actually care? I mean, I think he's just cemented that number 2 role forever.
He's got the greatest job ever. He really does. I mean, he rides on the bus.
He'll be collecting the win bonus tonight, not a fucking beady sweat broken, The boy Tonev, bad reports I've heard about him from people. Bet he have blistering pace, but just the guy said to me, he said he makes Dirk Boruchter look like Iron Robin. So I thought, for fuck's sake. So, and obviously, pursued by us last year, and by what a coincidence, Graham, Ronnie Dyler liked him as well,
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah, of course.
And then, of course, we have the old Berget who just came in, and, again, another collective gasp when he came on the night, and with the ponytail. Pony, I'm listening to ponytail at Celtic Park for a long time, got to be said. And, of course, the old Man City connection again with Jason Denayer, which is to go with Beaton and Ambrose and Ronnie Dyler, who are all Man City connections. And I believe, and I know for a fact, Graham, that the reason why we go to this Jason Denayer, what we'll say about this guy is that, Man City do rate him as the next Vincent Kompany. They rate him that highly and that. And so the reason why he's entrusted to go to Celtic is because of Ronnie Dyler, who Man City really rate and, would have quite liked to have him on their staff and that. So they've trusted Ronnie Dyler with this guy. And it will be interesting to see, just how good he is. But I just think you hinted earlier on in the show, Graham, that we may well be clearing the decks for another sale, and it looks like it's going to be Virgil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his comments towards the end of the game today seemingly don't fill anybody with a lot of confidence that he's going to stay. And granted, that is, it's pending the outcome of the tie with Maribor. Keep in mind, we still need to play that tie, and obviously, the players as well as the supporters have a bit more confidence after tonight. So, we'll have to sort of keep our options open with that. But I mean, I'm at a loss as to how Alexander Tonev. Well, first off, Ronnie Deila came out today and mentioned that Tonev has his mom in town and she doesn't speak English, so he can't leave her alone. There were also reports that and I'm not just making that up. That wasn't from the funny papers or whatever. That was quoted from Ronnie Deila.
I'm going to say, Graham, actually, when I saw that this morning, I did think it was a wind-up. I could not. I still cannot believe that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong or it's lies. I'm still staggered that how on earth that can happen. I don't know, unless his mother's really, really elderly, which, I mean, what age is the guy, 24-year-old? You wouldn't think she would be. She couldn't have went to the game, looked after by officials of Celtic, or...
Well, exactly. I mean, we don't have anybody on staff that can at least... I mean, if we don't have anybody that speaks Bulgarian, can we just get, like, somebody that has a Google Translate app? I mean, we can make do.
Like, I'm sorry, but if I was in Bulgaria... I didn't speak fucking Bulgarian, but if I was in Bulgaria... And some cunt went like that, listen, pal, there's 6 cans and fucking a pizza. We'll be back in 2 hours. I'm happy. I go, fuck, you know what I mean? It's like, he said, go Sky Sports and that telly, mate. Cheers. That'd be me. So I fucking flabbergasted with this one. Like, to be honest, it's the sort of thing that you just think, again, like I put in a blog a couple of weeks ago, it's like, every time Celtic, just, the fans are pissed off now, and they're not pissed off enough. What more can we do, you know what I mean? And it's getting a bit like the Ministry's silly fucking walks here. So, yeah, that just staggered me. But as I say, if no reason to doubt it, but for fuck's sake, if that situation couldn't have been eased out quickly, then nothing will be.
Well, and then the quick follow-up, it was almost as if there was like a siren that went off immediately following Ronnie saying that. And then the immediate follow-up was that he wasn't fit, that he had picked up an injury in the 8.5 hours that he had been a Celtic player. Who is doing the medical at Celtic? I don't understand. I have Crohn's disease. I have early onset rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm halfway thinking I could pass a medical at Celtic. How do you bring in a player, give them a medical, and pass them on, and they're injured? They're not available to play. How is that possible?
It sounds like it's fucking Dr. Nick for The Simpsons. By the fucking, I mean, I know. When I seen this thing about this injury, I think, well, how on earth do you pass a medical? You can't pass a medical if you're injured. End of story. So there was clearly, and it is. I mean, look, sometimes it's like what you say. It's like, that story appears, and then there's meltdown happens, and suddenly there's another story to kind of cover that. And sometimes people are fucking embarrassment. But other times people say, well, at least they're listening. You know what I mean? At least they're listening to the outcry.
Jesus.
But perhaps Mr. Tyler's going to have to realise in Scotland that you can't be that honest all the time.
Well, or, I mean, maybe, I don't know, something was lost in translation where he was trying to inject some humor and he didn't deliver it right. Listen, I'm still in the honeymoon phase where I will try and make excuses for Ronnie, so that's my excuse. He was trying to be funny, and he's more of a straight man. You can't give him that ironic stuff.
Yeah, you can't be that honest, you know what I mean? You can't be, because I remember being in a situation in Tony Mowbray's tenure at Celtic where I was invited to a thing at Celtic Park that he was going to be at, and very, very affable, plausible guy, and he went round all the tables and he's talking to all the supporters, and one guy had said to him, I really like Paul Caddis, I think he's got a good chance, and Tony Mowbray turned around to him and says, are you fucking joking? The boy's hopeless. And honestly, I couldn't believe what I'd heard. Like, even if he thinks that, it's like, you're the manager. So it was kind of one of the ones like, okay. But, it was just, I don't know, if I had a Christmas wish, Graham, I don't know what I say too early, it would be for Celtic to get a PR department,
Yeah, exactly. Because it's clear that they have, it's not that they have an inept PR department, it's clear that they have no PR department. Next topic, loan deals. Is this the cheap way out, or is this a byproduct of a tough market that we're currently in? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this. First of all, I didn't believe we're in a tough market. I didn't buy that nonsense for a second. I know that there's the argument is oh well, if we get them and then we have an option to buy, then it works out best for us. The argument against that is, well, you've got a new manager. You need to back him. You need to back him in his judgment in terms of saying, he runs the football department. Therefore, if he wants to sign these players, we sign them. End of story. I don't think Celtic use the loan system properly.
Yeah.
The kind of loans I would like to see are actually probably Robbie Keane or Craig Bellamy, not Roy Keane, not people at the end of their career. I mean, we got told Robbie Keane was at the end of his career when he came to Celtic. I mean, how long ago was that? He's still fucking playing. So, but I think that we could be looking at. I mean, let's take aside the blatant cheating in Man City with Frank Lampard. That's the kind of players and setup that I would like to see. I mean, your MLS, they're all looking for games, certain players, etc., right? So I look at that straight away. Then when I mentioned that, I was told there's no good players in the MLS, right? Like,
Jesus
okay.
Christ. Are you serious?
So what about the American team that played in the anyway? But
Somebody at Celtic said that.
No Celtic. On Twitter.
Fuck Twitter.
So then, I love the fact that you think I'm telling Celtic what transfer policy should there be in their loan deals. But I think we've got to be looking at experienced players. And I'm talking about good fucking experienced players. Guys that are on 70, 80 grand a week now, and just before fucking the members of CQN fucking have a heart attack here. I'm talking about for one season. We can afford to pay. If you let's say Man United have got a player at 80 grand a week, not getting a game. Let's say it's Darren Fletcher. I'm not just made the guy vice captain, but just say it's him, and he's probably on 120 grand a week, right? If Celtic go to him and say, we'll take him off your hands for a year because he's not getting a game, we'll pay 50 grand of the fucking salary, Man United will fucking snap your hand off for that, right?
Absolutely.
Because it saves him 50 grand a week. Then we bring in a top quality fucking player with tons of Champions League experience who not only can play in the Champions League and perform in the Champions League, can also pass on his experience to our younger players.
No question. Think about the knock-on effect with Beaton, Johansson, being around a player like that.
Yeah, I mean, you fucking stand there talking to Beaton for the next 10 years and we'll tell him what to do. Or you can put somebody who actually knows the position inside out and sit him beside him and he'll fucking learn more in 3 games than he would in 10 years of coaching. That's what I'd like to see us do. I just didn't see what Celtic's transfer policy is. I firmly believe it's on the hoof, it's 2 or 3 agents, it's a connection with 2 or 3 clubs, and that's the route that we go down. We're always kind of going back, and it's kind of like, I believe with somebody like Tonev, it would be, well, what do you need, Ronnie? Well, David a winger, well, we're monitoring this guy. And they know that they can say he's good or no because he's in our price racket. And so we can go out and get him and that. I just didn't think we're utilising that market. I mean, you know what astounds me, Graham, right? Germany just won the World Cup. So why on earth why are we not going to fucking the German league and the lower leagues in Germany? Fuck the lower leagues in England.
Look at what Wenger did with the French second division.
Aye, go to the lower league in Germany and see what's there. I mean, how scouting works is very simple. You pay a guy a couple of £100 a week to watch all these games. End of story. That's how it works. And they make me watch it for 6 or 7 other clubs, and he only passes on. He uploads reports into the system that your people can then read.
Shit,
right?
I do that for free.
Managers very rarely go and watch a game to watch a player nowadays. You know what I mean? They go to watch opposition and all that, right? Now, I know, like we've done United, what they do scouting reports. They've got scouting reports on everybody in the Scottish League. They have a database where, and they can tell you like about the strengths and weaknesses of basically every player in Scotland. You know what I mean? And then they extended it when Jackie came in to everybody in Scotland, right? And that's how they picked up Andrew Robertson for nothing, for base sweeties for fucking Queen's Park, an amateur team, and turned him into a £3 million player a year later. Because he knew he had the attributes, because they'd been scouting him for a year. And as you say, Wenger done it. I tell you, another team that done it properly for a year was Newcastle. Newcastle scouted the French league for a year. Look at the players they brought back.
And they made a ton of money off of that.
Exactly. And that's how to fucking do it. What are we doing? Fuck the Premiership players. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in them. I mean, I actually think, I mean, I was slight tangent, Graham, don't know what you think about this. I saw a stat on Sky Sports News today. I didn't have Sky Sports News, but I was in a battle cruiser, and it said the Premiership have spent 600 million quid on players.
Yeah.
That's fucking obscene. And it also, did you see the other thing about it, Graham? See this use of the word spent. Have they actually spent it? Or has a bank spent it for them?
Oh, that's clearly what it is. I mean, look at the debt load that any one of those clubs are based on.
Because I tell you right now, I mean, if you're Sky, right, say you're in charge of Sky, I know this is slightly off topic, but it's the same thing. If you're Sky, especially after last season, the season before, and you've got honest tons of money going into the club, right? Fucking clubs. You've got to be saying to the clubs, right, you need to go out and spend this dough. You know what I mean? And bring quality players into the league because we're selling this product around the world.
Well, at the end of the day, it's them that wants the highest quality product. I mean, you can talk all day about, the chairman wants this or that, but at the end, I mean, Sky doesn't care about individual teams. They just want the best players. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And it's why suddenly Arsenal are buying Sanchez and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it just sort of, it means that we as a club, this is the point, need to change our strategy completely. First of all, we need to completely overhaul the youth development, in my opinion. But secondly, we need to be scouring leagues all over the world, right? Now, despite what the right-wing nutcases in this country say, Britain has a really hard immigration policy. It's why, for example, 5 years ago, Everton scouted a guy in South America, agreed a $3 million fee for him, and they couldn't get a work permit for him, and they let it go. And who was the guy? Rodriguez.
James Rodriguez,
right?
Yep.
And so he ends up going to Porto. Why? Because it's an easy policy. Fucking Portugal.
And he went to Porto on $400,000. That Porto paid his club in Colombia $400,000.
Yeah, and other people saw the talent and they bought percentages of the player. 10% here, 10% there. So he ends up got a Monaco for €45 million.
Yeah.
Imagine you got in on that 10% there.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
You've got to scour the world, and clubs like Celtic are not doing that. No. We are not scouring the world. We are saying, what do we need? Right, let's go and phone Lawwell's son. Let's go and phone the Israeli agent. Let's go and phone him, the Swedish agent. And that's how it's working all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a hit or miss policy.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can say that it's a policy, but there is no strategy behind it. There is no tactic behind it. It's, like you said, it's going to the old faithfuls, the old reliables, but there's no plan in this. Like, right, we have a system here. This is the way that we need to play. These are the types of players that we need to bring in. This is the wage structure, whatever. It's like, oh, we need a striker? Go talk to our guy in Portugal, or go talk to our guy in Scandinavia, or whatever. And it seems as though we're at a point now, considering the fact that we have freeze and loans. That's all that we've brought in. We haven't spent one penny that we've brought in on player sales, on Champions League accruals, which has been an absolute fortune. I mean, we're talking 60 million quid over the past several years. And now we're only doing loan deals, and it's almost as if the powers that be want to hold their hands up and say, you know what, we're kind of shit at this buying players thing. I mean, if you look at what happened last summer, I mean, well, shit. I mean, we had Pookie and Balde and Bo Richter, and they're all duds. So we suck at this. So we're going to minimize the risk at how bad we suck and just get loan players so that if we continue to suck, it won't hurt that bad. Instead of saying, you know what, we suck at buying players, so let's just do something different in terms of buying players. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Listen,
I mean, you cannot underestimate the importance and significance of having proper football eyes on the player. Fuck videos and all that kind of thing, because we could sit there now and we could stream the whole French league and watch it. You're still not going to see movements, because when you're scouting a player, you're not watching the game, you're watching the player. Their movements and all that kind of thing. Football eyes on the players. Neil Lennon played one season of Championship. Who did he put his football eyes on? Chris Commons, Kelvin Wilson, Gary Hooper. Every one of them done brilliant for Celtic. Fucking made a profit on two of them, probably make a profit on Commons. That's the difference, Graham. That's the difference between signing players like that. Cheap. Gary Hooper 2.2, fucking 60, 70 goals later, and then 5.5 million. Wilson, great. Commons, fantastic. That's the difference. That's the difference between Neil Lennon's eyes on players and fucking Matt Lawwell's fucking eyes on players who's never played a fucking game of football in his life. That's the reality.
Next topic, Paul. We were just talking about a youth development. The youth development at the club just now. For years, it's shown a lot of promise. Obviously Lennoxtown is a first-rate facility. Let's not kid ourselves. This is the vision that the great Tommy Burns had for where the club was going to go, what sort of facilities that were needed to support that, and somehow it's fallen by the wayside. We are still having to rely on loan deals and purchasing players from these exotic places instead of. You would expect by now. It's getting on 8 years that Lennoxtown has been in operation, or maybe slightly less, maybe 6 to 7 years that the Lennoxtown's been up and running. You'd expect by now that we would be able to pull more players through. At this point, off the top of my head, I can name James Forrest and Callum McGregor, and we just saw Tony Watt go, but he really wasn't a product of Lennoxtown. We're not seeing that pull through of players, and we're taking all sorts of players throughout Scotland. We talked about Andy Robertson, and look what happened there. We chucked him a few years ago for being too small. Does this need a complete revamp?
Well, yeah, I think it does, and I think it will happen. I think, whatever we think of the new manager, I think he will overhaul that. He can't do it immediately, but you're sitting there, you've got half the fucking Motherwell 1991 Scottish Cup team there for some God knows what reason. You've got Phoebe Frail, ex-Hearts manager, people like that. Kennedy's always obviously moved up. You've got Tommy McIntyre there. It doesn't seem to be working, and I'm sure. I've read a lot of books on youth systems and developments and that kind of thing, and the common theme, Graham, seems to be that the youth coaches, whatever club they're at, can sit there and tell you year in, year out why their system is the best and why it will produce X, Y, and Z players. And then when it doesn't, they can tell you all the reasons why it didn't. And it's like, well, that's not really good enough. That's not really what we're wanting here. Yeah. We're spending a fair bit of money on Lennoxtown, but it's nowhere near as much as. I had somebody say to me a couple of days ago that was the reason why we couldn't spend any money, because Lennoxtown was costing us £10 million a year.
Oh my God!
Not quite. It's about 1.5. So it just isn't working, is it? It's we seem to have a policy a few years ago of buying players who were young, sort of foreigners, and things like that. Roderick was one of them, and Thomas Rogner, and the Czech boy Milan, can't remember his second name. People like that, but none of them have kind of pushed on. And as soon as I kind of made a snap decision on Roderick straight away. Didn't think he was anywhere near good enough to play for a team like Celtic.
No,
and it just kind of thinks, well, how is it? We're hampered in this country by this idiotic under-20 league or whatever. And it's like you can't get experienced players playing beside younger players in a reserve scenarios that they can learn from. Because like any job, yourself, any job you've got, how you learn is for somebody who actually knows what they're fucking doing.
Exactly.
And then can pass on the tools to you. So it just doesn't seem to be working at all. And I'm sure Ronnie Dyler has got one eye on that already, because he'll have clearly looked at every aspect of the club and seen what he likes and what he doesn't. And I would suggest that that's something he will be keeping a keen eye on, because we've got a group of players there now who have been at the club for a long, long time. The guys like Gary McGeoch and Marcus Fraser and all that, and starting to ship a couple of them out, a couple of them being released, etc. You just kind of wonder how long are they actually going to still be around the club, and what do we need to change it? Because I've always said that the minute Rangers died, that should have been the point where we went, right, let's ensure within 3-4 years we have a conveyor belt on the go. That's how to fucking strengthen your position as a club, to have that kind of thing. But bottom line is, Graham, there's other clubs that are doing it better in Scotland. We talked about Andrew Robertson. You look at United with Gold and Suter. You look at the players Hearts broke through, who are now starting the Championship for them. A club like Celtic, we should be setting the standard for it, and we clearly aren't.
No. One thing that was absolutely baffling to me. And I guess it goes more than baffling. I mean, baffling, you think about, you're just confused. You can't figure it out. But I guess shocking is the better word, because I had expectations of something completely different and higher expectations. Obviously, we had Willie McNabb from the scouting, not the scouting, but the youth department at Celtic over this past January. And, it was fantastic. Gave a talk to the Celtic supporters that were in the bar for the Fela at the Plough, and he did a Q&A. And I the one thing that I wanted to get a better understanding of was how much interaction and how much influence did Neil Lennon have in the youth setup? How much communication was there in terms of the system that Lennon wants to play? Because at the time, let's not kid ourselves. We thought Lennon was going to be here for years, and as such, you'd think that Lennon would have some desires and some requirements for bringing players through. And the shocking thing to me was that, and I'm not going to repeat verbatim. Those that were in attendance know what he said. I'm not going to repeat verbatim, but essentially he was. I don't want to say he was lost for words, but there wasn't any sort of clarity that told me that Neil Lennon had any sort of influence or instruction or interaction really with the youth setup in terms of the style of play that we were trying to develop in the culture, the types of players for each individual position, so that we could play that style. His comments back to me were very macro in nature, and it's like I left to asking myself, is the tail wagging the dog here? How is this working? Is there a coherent system, or is this like, okay, we'll just try and get a good system playing fancy, attractive football with these kids, and hopefully some of them will be able to blend into the big team, rather than having a system that the entire setup is based on, like an Ajax.
Yeah, that is incredible. But the one positive thing I can say about that is that there's no chance that will happen with John Collins at the football club.
Exactly.
John Collins, when he was at Livingston, trained every one of the under 10s, 11s, right the way up, the same way to play, the same system, right the way through the club. The absolute imprint on the club. That was how they were going to do it. They were going to do it right, get these players playing all the way through. It's that seems so obvious, doesn't it? It just seems so obvious that you just keep doing what you're doing all the way through your career, and then when you come up to the big league, you've been doing it for years. Yeah, I know of big youth clubs in Scotland that didn't do that still. And you've just mentioned the fact that Celtic didn't. I didn't understand why. I can understand to a certain extent at the start of Lennon's managerial career that he wouldn't want to concentrate on the youths per se, simply because he wanted to, make a success of the first team job. But after he'd been there for a while, and certainly at the point when you've spoken to your man McNabb, you would think that Lennon would be putting down the blueprint to say, right, this is what we want and that kind of thing, because, that has got to be the future. And I still don't believe that we are doing it seriously enough to make it the future. That we actually have to appreciate that we're never, ever going to compete with the budgets of the big countries in Germany, Italy, Spain and England and whatever, and so we need to create the environment that allows us to create the best football players that we actually can possible. You know what I mean? And we just didn't seem to be doing that at all right now. I say it's like that team that got slaughtered by Tottenham. I saw exactly the same team get slaughtered by Partick Thistle.
Yeah.
2 years previous to that. There's been no progress whatsoever. And that's staggering to me. That is absolutely staggering to me. So, it's something that I say I feel passionate. I'm sure every Celtic supporter feels passionate about this. We love nothing more to see our own players come through and make it. And as you say, probably the only one that has done that is Forrest. And even then, because of his injuries, it's like, well, but he's been around for 4 years now. So that's just not good enough. The whole point when McGeady was sold was, to go down that route. And McGeady's the obvious best one. But if you hark back to the Martin O'Neill era, look at the players that came through, Graham. No, just McGeady. You've got, David Marshall, Steve McManus, Craig Beattie, John Kennedy, Ross Wallace. All guys, and this is Martin O'Neill, who'd never ever played young players. All 8 players came through under his era. Mm-hmm. And went on and we sold them all for a profit. Made a lot of money for the club. All of them. That's what you want to see. Yet, that just seems to have ground to a halt in the last 4 or 5 years.
I think that we've gotten overly consumed with taking stock of how great we are, and we've forgotten about having a focus on what we stand for, what we're about, and what we're trying to achieve. I think that's clear to be seen throughout, not just with the youth setup, but with the direction that the club's going, with merchandising, with marketing. I think that we all. I'll amend that. I think that the club themselves, the administrators, have a humongous Barcelona hangover, and it needs to stop. It needs to. I mean, somebody needs to splash water in the faces of everybody, because this is a macro issue. There needs to be a statement. I mean, a motto, a mantra. I mean, a way that everybody is being and thinking that is synergistic. And right now, it just seems like it's completely disjointed. And we're the mighty Glasgow Celtic, and everything's going to come good in the end. Next topic. Fraser Forster. He was sent to Southampton earlier this week, 10 million quid, which I know that you've expressed, and I firmly agree with the fact that this was probably undervalued, for just how good he is. Let me ask you, how does he rate compared to the best Celtic keepers of all time? How will he be remembered and ranked?
Well, I mean, for consistency, he's the best I've seen. Paki Bonner was always a decent keeper, and then he really peaked between sort of 88 and 90, where you could actually argue Paki was the best goalie in Europe at that time, particularly with his performances in Euro 88 and Italia 90. But Fraser Forster, to me, is a guy who, when he first came to Celtic, everybody could see he had flaws. And he worked on them.
Yeah.
He actually worked on them with Stevie Woods, who I didn't really know anything about, but what I seem to think is Fraser Forster, worshipped the ground he walked on, and he seemed to do a great job. And Fraser Forster then lifted himself into a goalkeeper that was as good as anybody in the world.
Yep.
And that takes dedication. I think the turning point in his Celtic career was when he saved the penalty against Hearts when we were in the Bronx that day. At that point, people still weren't sure of him. He saved that penalty and he never looked back. Yep. He broke the Scottish record. The Spanish press called him the Wall, and he never gave the club an ounce of trouble. And I always liked him. I always liked him as a Celtic player, as a Celtic person, as a Celtic ambassador. I thought he was a great, great asset to the club. And I am really devastated that he's left, because I think 10 million is a ridiculous fee for somebody his ability. I mean, for Christ's sake, if he does the same thing in the Premiership, the great, fantastic Premiership next year, you'll be able to double that instantly.
No question.
Not a problem.
No question.
We're talking about a guy who should be. I mean, I think Joe Hart's pretty decent goalkeeper. I know everybody. Oh, he's shite. That's it. But it's like, it's like. But Forster is as good as him. No question about it.
Yeah.
And he's also done some things that are just incredible. And I think that his double save against Barcelona is as good as anything I've seen for a goalkeeper. And yeah, I mean, I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted that he's left, because the big man was different class about 95% of the time he played for Celtic, and he could cut it at the top level, which everybody thinks at the time when you're watching it we should be doing, we're entitled to be doing, and it's easy to be doing. Well, I think this summer's told us it's anything but.
And there's a couple things that I want to pick up on here. First off, a great point about the fact that even after he saved that penalty against Hearts, which let's remember the context there. This was us chasing the 15-point deficit, leading into that game. Joe Ledley's goal, 15-1, et cetera, and we had so much momentum going into that, and we desperately needed to keep that going. Wanyama kicks that goal in, and it's like Wanyama. I mean, to that point, Wanyama hadn't scored. I mean, I think Wanyama had taken 3 shots, and one of them went for like a throw-in. So him scoring the goal was like, all right, let's go. And then obviously the penalty. When he saved that, it was like, I mean, he got us 2 points out of that. But with that being said, he was still fighting off the demons from a very, very lackluster performance against the Huns, about 18 months previous in the October game of his first season, where, I mean, it just looked like he just could not kick a ball. And he still got pelters up until, that fantastic game against Barcelona. But you touched on it. This was a situation where we had a player that was so committed to one goal. I mean, making himself into the best keeper that he possibly could be, and getting himself on that plane in Brazil. That he separated from his partner. He was in training from 6 a.m. Far before any other player would come, and far after any other player would leave. You talk about Stevie Woods. I mean, this is. I think 90% of it is certainly the effort that Fraser Forster put in, which is so rare to see. And it's also why I firmly believe that this isn't going to be the plateau for Fraser Forster. He's going to get better. And as such, I hope that we got a good sell-on clause in our deal with Southampton, because to your point, he's going to go on for perhaps double that. And not just within England. I mean, he could go anywhere in Europe. He's already made his name. Like you said, I mean, look, Gran Morala in Spain, he could go play for a big Spanish club. He could go play for a big German club, a big Italian club, because he has that reputation. And he's going to be doing this for a long, long time. I mean, the fact that he looks after himself so well like that, and the fact that, I mean, keepers like Friedel are still going at age 40. It's a great example. Casillas. I mean, Casillas has been going forever. It's usually disappointing to lose him. Obviously, every player has their price. I agree with you where I think that we got lowballed to a certain extent. And at this point, we can just cross our fingers and hope that Gordon can do the business.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Gordon is a top-quality goalkeeper, right? And bottom line is that was his first competitive game since April 2012, I think. And
I think he looked good.
One decent save first half. He wasn't really troubled in the second half, whatever. But ideal scenario, he gets fit, gets back to his best, and we've got another great goalkeeper on our hands, and there's no question about that. But in terms of Fraser Forster, the fact that there's nobody else, I say mentioned Paki Bonner that 2-year period, there's nobody else I'd compare in the goalkeepers, and I include Boric and people like that, and it's just, He is just one of the players at goalies that come along every so often. And it's kind of like, back when they were alive, the Huns were, always known for having good goalkeepers, and Chris Woods and Kloss and Gorham and people like that. And it was nice for Celtic to have one that was easily as good as them. And as I say, to break the Scottish record was no mean feat. You know what I mean? It was no mean feat at all. Yeah. And when the Spanish press are calling you the wall, then you've made it. Like,
speaking of Boric, next topic: Legia of Warsaw. Let me ask you, Paul. There's been quite a reaction from Legia of Warsaw, their administration, their supporters. Let football win. I'm not exactly sure what the context of that could possibly be. There's rules in place for a specific reason. But let me ask you, I think this is an interesting topic. If the shoe was on the other foot and Celtic had made that same error, who would you be blaming? Would you be blaming UEFA? Would you be blaming Legia Warsaw or whoever our opponent was? I mean,
no, I'd be blaming the person that made the error.
Right.
Simple as that. And I think everybody in the Celtic stratosphere would as well. I mean, I'm just, as I said on Twitter yesterday, I couldn't give a fuck about what these moral guardians in Legia want to talk about. I mean, bottom line, I don't know what the hell it's going to do with Celtic. I have no idea what this is going to do with Celtic. Celtic played in a match that they cheated in. They fielded an ineligible player. That's cheating. It's in the UEFA rules. They broke the rules. UEFA punished them. That's it. That's got nothing to do with Celtic whatsoever. They said, Celtic weren't taking calls and that, and I know they weren't, because at 10 o'clock I was talking to somebody at Celtic and they were saying that we're not taking anything for them because it's nothing to do with us.
Why would they?
Exactly. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. So, and all of a sudden it's like, we have Darius Jakinovsky fucking lecturing us on morals. Really, Jackie? Really? And Arthur Boric, I like Celtic, but this is my club and all this kind of... Arthur, what the fuck you talking about, man?
What would you do? Because this is my love, or something like. I mean, oh Jesus Christ, get a hold of yourself, man.
It's like what I would do is be more dedicated and be the goalie you could have fucking been, but that's another story. I didn't understand. Like, we have no influence over this. Do they honestly think that when UEFA made that decision, Celtic could say, "Oh, hold on a minute here, no, we're not wanting this. We have to play. UEFA told us we're in the Champions League. End of story. If we pulled out the Champions League, we're in breach of the rules as well."
Exactly.
What the fuck do they want us to do? Yeah, it was unfortunate. Yeah, they deserve to beat us. We all know that. We all watched both the games. But the bottom line is, they cheated, And of course, the only difference is, Graham, is that we're interested in a football league in Scotland that happily saw a team cheat for 10 years and then decided, but they never gained any advantage yet. And so then all of a sudden, when you see a team cheating one night, look how swift the fucking punishment was meted out.
Oh yeah.
And so that makes us all think, holy shit. And you think, no, that's how it should be, actually. That's what it was meant to be like, you know what I mean? That's what I was like for Stranraer and Stirling Albion when they got fucked out the cup in Spartans. Boom, straight out. I find it laughable, And I mean, don't get me wrong, nothing would surprise me in this thing and whatever, but it's just like Legia are actually starting to act like the fucking guy whose girls just went, "Look, I'm sick of you, fuck off." And now it's like they're putting selfies on Twitter and, "Oh, please take me back, take me back, take me back." And it's like, just stop me. That's when you need one of your mates to pull you inside and say, "Listen, you're making an absolute cunt of yourself. I'm no surprised she left you. Get a fucking grip and man up." They're talking to us about honour, then they're all bleating on fucking social media.
You can act like a man.
I mean, what the fuck is this fucking shit about? Act with honour and dignity and all this. What do you want? So what do you want us to do? Like, what exactly do you want us to do? And I'll tell you something else, by the way, right? One of the things that their president or whoever the fuck says was, "Oh, let's have a game and whatever, Celtic Park." I'd absolutely love that. See if it actually came to that, I'd absolutely love it, because I genuinely believe with our fans in that ground under that circumstance, we could give them a fucking rude awakening. But the bottom line is, we weren't the ones that fucking made the mistake, and we now find out, Graham, that the fucking player in question told them that, by the way, I'm suspended. What are you doing? Everything's fine. So fuck them. They made the mistake and they got punished. End of story. And, I just hope fucking karma kicks them in the fucking balls and we fucking sail past Maribor. And when we're in the Champions League, they're in the fucking, Unibond League.
Well, I mean, there's so many elements to the story that keep on peeling. I'm reading a report right now, and obviously it's not confirmed. UEFA is going to come out with their decision in several hours, but there is a report coming out of a Polish paper that's saying that the decision's already been reached and their appeal has been rejected, so therefore it's ahead as usual for Celtic. We will play against Maribor if this is indeed true. I mean, you have a precedent here where UEFA's hands are tied. It's not as if there was a gray area or it was subjective at all. You had a player that was suspended, and that's the rule of law that applies to all clubs. Now, it doesn't matter what the context is. It doesn't matter that the player came on for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it was when you're 6-1 up aggregate. It doesn't matter. You can't do that and expect to get away with it. I mean, if you get away with that with what, a fine or whatever, every club would do that after that. I mean, the law and the punishment of giving people red cards would have zero teeth anymore. I mean, aside from the player having to leave the pitch, you have to stick by that.
This appeal is just an absolute fucking nonsense. It's like me coming round to your house and saying, "Graham, can you loan me $500?" And you say, "I'm sorry, I've just not got it. I'd give it, I've not got it. Would really like to help, I've not got it." And then I come back 3 hours later and say, "Graham, I'm appealing to you. Give me $500." I don't have the fucking money. That's it. It's like, what you're basically saying, it's not an appeal. What Legia Warsaw are basically saying is, they want UEFA to say, "We made a mistake." Of how you fucking possibly need UEFA mistake? There's the rules. This is the punishment. Here's it meted out for what you done. Goodbye.
Now fuck off.
Now you want us to come back and reverse this, and it's just stop. It's all posturing because I mean, it's like the stages of grief, isn't it? I mean, they're still in total denial that this has actually happened. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we've got to fight. Look, it's just happened, and that's it. You know, I'm personally delighted because what it means for us on a personal level is we're in European football till Christmas now.
Yep.
And I hope and pray that that's the Champions League. But I'm not going to be fucking scratching my eyes out if it's the Europa League either, because you know what? I think that may actually help us. But I know Mr. Lawwell's sitting there fucking thinking, Christ, if we just do something in Maribor, boom, there's the riches again, there's the bonus fucking secured again. But, you know, we done nothing wrong, they did, so, you know, do me a favour and shut the fuck up.
That'd be a favour to me too. Shut the fuck up. Next topic. Maribor. Obviously on the heels of another 3-0 victory on the bounce. How do you like our chances?
Well, I mean, in a time-honoured Scottish tradition, I'll say right away about a foreign team. They're nae mugs. We saw last season they lost 4-3 to Sevilla in the Europa, who we know how good they are because they won the fucking thing.
Yeah.
They played in a group with Wigan last year. Not going to look into that, and they beat Wigan. Not going to look into that too much, of course, because Owen Coyle was the manager. So, yeah. I mean, look, it's actually it's a strange scenario, Graham, because if we'd drawn Maribor last season instead of Carragandi, I'd have been saying to you now, we'll win this, no problem. You know what I mean? Nothing to fear whatsoever. But the context has changed. New manager, players have gone, not being replaced properly, new signs haven't been embedded in, not even played yet, etc. So, you know, we just think, and we've seen the Liga games, we're absolute pish, and we're thinking, oh Christ, this is crap. Having said that, we won 3-0 tonight, we could easily win 3-0 again on Saturday, and we might go there with a bit of confidence, and we might score again, and we might not make the same mistakes and play the 8 men up front as we did in Warsaw. So, I'm certainly not writing it off by any stretch of the imagination. It was a wee tangent again, has been known on this show, is that I actually wanted to go to this game because I've been bleating on about going, and it's like 369 quid for a day trip, like fuck in hell.
Yeah. So
that's why I needed to come round your house for the $500 game, and you couldn't give me it. Well, and I had to tell them that was it. Anyway, but
sorry.
Listen, you want positivity, right? It's no fucking Real Madrid. It's Maribor. We've got players coming back. We've won 3-0 tonight. We could win again on Saturday. We could go there with confidence. We could go there and nick a result. And we're bringing them back to the fucking best football venue on the planet. Who knows? I'm not getting it up by any stretch of imagination. A week's a long time in football. A fucking long time in football. And when I walked to that ground Murrayfield last week and we were fucking outplayed by Warsaw, if you told me there and then that we would win 3-0 at McDiarmid Park, I would have said, you're off your fucking head. But we did. And we did comfortably. So, I'm saying, fuck it, Graham, we'll beat them.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's one of these situations where we're at a crossroads right now. We have players leaving, we have players coming in. I'm just reading tweets, and everybody's losing their head that Chris Commons is away because he posted a picture on Instagram. I don't know how true that is, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Maybe a picture of Watley.
It's a picture of himself and his boy, I guess, after winning the league last season, and saying, me and the wee man, great memories, and that's it. So everybody's lost the plot, like, oh my God, he's away, that means he's away, and it's cryptic, and people are sending tweets to Lisa Haig, and she's not responding, and oh my God.
I would suggest that that's photograph. If I was, I'm not saying the Commons family are fantastic at PR or whatever, but I think Lisa Haig made a pretty stupid tweet earlier on, and I think the Commons photos probably a response to that to get them people back on side. Although I am reading it now on Instagram that everybody's having a conversation that's already sold Chris Commons. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't want to get in the way of mass hysteria. That's certainly not what we're about. But
he doesn't care what they say as long as they're talking about.
I mean, maybe there's an element of that. Look, getting back to the Maribor tie. I mean, if we can get some of these players, like I said, Inga Burgett comes in. He didn't light the heather ablaze as some might say. But, I saw...
By the way, don't think I haven't noticed your subliminal. You keep mentioning this fucking guy all the time.
Well, he looks like fucking Thor. I mean,
he's going to be your new guy this season, I think.
You've seen my hair transformation. I'm kind of digging it.
But listen, I'm saying he's going to be your guy this season, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, I think, something just perked up in the Wilson household when he walked on that pitch tonight, I think, and you've just went, right, fuck it, he's going to be my guy.
Jesus Christ. You're reading way too much into this.
Well, we'll see.
He's a new signing. I mean, what the hell else am I going to talk about? Michael Lustig's playing center half.
Well, excuse me. I'm playing centre half as captain.
Well, I mean,
something that I was advocating for on this show about 4 weeks ago.
Speaking of the player, that you love, and look, I don't have any argument. I'm glad that he's the fucking captain. If anybody on that team should be the captain, it should be him. But I digress. I mean, listen, we have a huge game coming up this weekend against Dundee United. Speaking of, they're no mugs. I mean, they're going to be up for this. They smell blood. There's blood in the water. They're a fantastic counterattacking team. They're going to be going up against us. They're going to look to rip us to shreds, and we need to keep it tight. And I firmly believe if we go out and we have a good performance against Dundee United, we can take a huge amount of confidence from that. Yeah. And like you said, gather some momentum, go into that tie. Like you eloquently put, they're not Real Madrid. They're fucking Maribor. So... hopefully lessons are being learned. Hopefully we are making progress. Ronnie came out tonight and said, look, the first half, I wasn't happy with that, but, there's certain ways that I want to play, and we're not there yet, but we're going to keep working on it. So are we seeing glimpses, and can we maybe see more and more glimpses instead of just the second half tonight? Can it maybe be the 2/3 of the game on Saturday? Maybe can we put an entire game together, this time next week? It's entirely possible.
Well, Graham, I always think that when there's many ills right now around Celtic, and I always think that the one cure is always, for a lot of these ills, is to remember who we are. And who we are is Celtic Football Club. And that should be the innermost thought in every player's head when they walk on that pitch. We are Celtic Football Club, right? And that's the mentality I want to see going into Maribor. Right? Because whatever we say, we have won a fucking watch with this tie, and we have made all our mistakes in Warsaw and in the fucking second game, right? And we can look at that and say, like, what did we do wrong? Because it's fucking obvious what we've done wrong in Warsaw. We're far, far, far too fucking positive with our formation. Now, if we can tinker with that, we have got players that can defend. And, Gordon can save. If we can then solidify that midfield and put somebody up there. I mean, I'm not sure why Griffiths was he ill tonight or something? Somebody was saying wasn't in the squad, whatever. But if we can get, your man Bergett, maybe this is a guy Ronnie wants to come and do it, etc. Then didn't he write it off? There's no reason to write it off whatsoever. But at the end of the day, we can constructively criticise many things at the club, but every single Celtic player supporter on the planet wants nothing more for us to go to Maribor and get a positive result.
Oh my God,
and
yes.
I'm certainly never going to write that off.
Me neither. Next topic. Speaking of write-offs. Fergus McCann is back. His legacy. Now, the club is selling bonnets. They're selling hats for £5. I mean, never once to be to miss an opportunity for some tacky merchandising. Get your official bonnet hat. His legacy. He's returning. I mean, there's going to be some discontent. Let's not kid ourselves. Like we've talked about over the course of the 10inaRow Celtic shows, there is some discontent within the support, mainly directed at Peter Lawwell. Finally, thank you. But what do you think the reaction is going to be to Fergus himself, and what's his legacy?
Well, I mean, I'm going to boo him. No, I'm only joking. You're going on about the bonnet. I mean, I saw the bonnets on sale at Murrayfield, like the official merchandise.
Oh my God!
Get your Fergus McCann bonnet. And it was one of them double take things. It's just like but again, as I've said numerous times in the show, this comes from where you have a chief executive who runs a football club, which is basically telling all his departments make money every day. This is why you have pitches being fucking sold and bonnets being all this shit, right? But I'll guarantee you right now, you can rant about all fucking night about this, how stupid it is. You want to go to Celtic Park on Saturday, I bet you thousands are wearing a bonnet.
Yeah.
Might not be the bonnets, but they'll be wearing a bonnet.
Right.
You know, as I've said in the show when it was the 20th anniversary takeover, and that is that Fergus done a lot of great things for the club. He done a lot of things that weren't great for the club as well. And you know, I for a forthcoming book, I spoke to 3 employees who Celtic at the time, who at length told me great things, how great a boss Fergus was and all that, and all independently says, but we did spend a lot of time saying, just give us the fucking money to stop 10 in a row. And that's, you know, that was how I remember that era as well. And but history has been kind to him, and he done a hell of a lot for the club and all that kind of thing. And it's a nice thing. I always think that, you know, I had a couple of people over the last, are you going to the game on Saturday? I'm kind of like, the flag's gone up. Like, I mean, this is all it is all about.
What
this
the
is
fuck
it.
else would I be doing? Yes,
Yeah,
I'm going to the game.
This is better than the trophy, as far as I'm concerned. You know, thinking way back to you know, when I first started going to Celtic Park, Graham, you used to have the flag used to go up as you looked at the jungle. It would go up on the right hand side corner on the roof. To when I first started going, and then what you would have would be someone like the Lord Provost of Glasgow or somebody like that. You know, it's like the mayor, and a Rolls Royce would appear, and a Rolls Royce would drive around the pitch, and everybody would be going fucking crazy. You know, here's the Rolls Royce coming and fucking cheering as it went round, and then whoever the Lord Provost was or whoever the Lord Provo was even would unfurl that flag, and it would be fantastic. Then in the '88. We unfurled it in front of the Celtic end, which was nice. And then, of course, we never unfurled it again for another 10 fucking years.
Yeah.
So that leads us on to when Fergus done it and was booed and stuff. So, you know, and it was on the pitch and whatever. And look, I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think we have to recognise the impact that Fergus had on the club, and you know, I don't think anybody really will agree. I mean, you'll get some people who will think everything Fergus done was great. Well, you're a fucking idiot then, you know what I mean? Because Fergus himself will tell you that everything he done certain things wrong. But look, it's a great thing for Celtic. The flag's gone up. One of our legends is going to do it. And look, even if you didn't like Fergus, and I know there's plenty of people who didn't like him. Right? Look, people, just be thankful for the fact that if Fergus does it, it's not going to be Ian Bankier.
That's a good point. Look, I can't speak to this from a proper perspective in terms of understanding the impact that Fergus had, because I wasn't a Celtic supporter before Fergus arrived, and you know, I mean, I was a Celtic supporter for maybe 8 minutes while Fergus still owned the club. Yeah. What I can say is, and I mean, with that, I didn't see the old stadium. I've seen pictures, I've seen the DVDs, I've seen the YouTube, all the bullshit. I've seen the new stadium, and just in the first opportunity, the first glimpse of the stadium, I mean, it just no. And I'm not some hayseed from Iowa that's never seen a stadium before. I mean, I've seen some huge stadiums. I've seen a lot of huge stadiums, but when you see Celtic Park, as you're walking up the Gallagate, and it just sort of rises, you know, from nowhere. I mean, it's an excellent, if nothing else, that's a huge testament to what Fergus did for Celtic.
Yeah, it is, and it's actually funny because Alan Stubbs is obviously the new manager of Hibs, and I was actually thinking about it today that we in 1996 we paid £3.5 million to buy Alan Stubbs.
Oh my God!
In 1996, if we fucking tomorrow went out and bought a defender for that price, Graham, I think half the sales support would faint.
I'd shit.
You know, you're fucking 18 years ago. You know what I mean?
And he was probably on bigger wages than any player on our team just now.
And we fought off competition from Arsenal and Liverpool. You know, it just shows you how much things have changed and fucking that thing. But, you know, I mean, Fergus, you know, he gets slagged for taking a lot of money out of the club. But look, as far as I'm concerned, like in 1994, anybody that could say that Fergus would make that amount of profit, nobody knew. The guy had to build a stadium. We had to build a team.
Well, and he came in not, you know, he didn't come in, you know, promising that this was going to be some altruistic, charitable ordeal. He told us exactly what he was going to do and what he was going to leave with, and that's what he did. I mean, you can't fault him for that. He didn't lie to anybody.
That's right, and he showed you 2 years before it, that's what the stadium will look like, and I'll come in, we'll win the league within 5 years, which they did. And that's what happened. And, you can sit here all night and debate the good and the bad that went on under Fergus McCann, but the good certainly outweighs the bad, there's no doubt about that. And I think it's a nice thing that he has the opportunity to sort of come over and day the flag, and perhaps, given his comments a few weeks ago, he might have the opportunity to find out who some of the players are, because you see they didn't know who any of them were nowadays.
Well, I mean, it speaks to the fact that the Channel 67 or the Celtic TV subscription is a bit dear.
Yeah.
And we know Fergus. He likes to be economical.
Yeah, and given he started it, then you think they'd give him it for nothing, but no, that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's always a great day when the flag goes up, and it'll be good to get back to Celtic Park because it feels like a fucking age since we've been there.
Yeah.
And of course, just unfortunate for people like yourself, Graham, who's going to have to get up at the crack of dawn.
I don't give a shit. For Celtic, seriously, I don't. Listen, you wake up Monday through Friday, trying to get to work, whatever. The alarm clock goes, and it's like, oh, fuck. And then you just want to go back to sleep. An alarm clock goes at 5:35 a.m. on a Saturday morning for a 7 o'clock kickoff over here, a lunchtime kickoff over there. And my feet don't touch the ground until I get out to the car. I mean, I just jump up.
Is that because your wife's throwing you out,
Well, pretty much. I don't get much of the bed anymore, but that's a different topic.
Ooh.
And speaking of topics, next topic, and the last topic, and this is a continuation of the theme that we adopted this year, where we pick out a member of the Celtics social media community for highlight, praise, or ridicule. This week's target, or
I'm on tender hooks here,
or subject, or however you want to term it, the Frankie Macca on Twitter. I guess this is a person. I don't want to speculate on the gender. I would assume it's a guy, but perhaps it's a bird.
No, it's a guy.
Okay.
I can confirm that.
Official confirmation. So it's a guy.
Yep.
So let me ask you, Paul, how does he find so much time to devote to Twitter that takes him away from chasing birds?
That's a very, very good question. But, I mean, he's got such a range of different topics that he tweets on, from some of the more adult variety, shall we say. Like, I saw him when I first really was in touch with him, or, I was in contact with him. He was tweeting, a few pictures of ladies, shall we say, and then he was arguing with somebody else, and then he just tweeted me and said, "What did you think of the game last night?" It's just fucking like, right, okay. To honestly say, the biggest compliment I could probably pay him is he's probably a lot better than the actual real thing on Twitter. You just can't seem to transform his personality onto Twitter. I mean, he's I think, the parody account thing used to be sort of quite popular. And no with me. I couldn't be bothered with them at all.
But you saw the key. I mean, the first one that I remember was the key one. The Apostle Provo, and then you had a Patty McCourt one.
Yeah,
and
dreadful. I couldn't be bothered with any of that shit. But this one isn't a parody account. There's actually a pretty salient guy behind that account, and also, he's a really decent guy, and he's got a lot of decent things to say. Sort of, underneath the kind of... I mean, he's also quite funny where he's got a brilliant thing where anything that could be perceived as a kind of double entendre, if you like, he then produces the face of Frank McAvenny.
I know, I love it. Right on cue.
Which is funny.
Every time.
He's obviously a great supporter of the show as well, which is always good. And I should say as well, on this show, just on a slight tangent, this show is a 10inaRow show. And it has always been the 10inaRow show. For some reason, people tonight were thinking it was a phone-in show. I have no idea why. This has always been the 10inaRow show. So, yeah, I quite like his stuff. I mean, I'm no sort of how can I say, sort of. Actually, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, yeah, I think he's a good guy, and also think he's better than the real thing.
Well, and to just picking up on the parody account topic and that subject, when he first started tweeting me, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of familiarity with him, other than sometimes people would retweet his pictures of like, an open vagina, which is exactly what I need. If I have my iPad open, I'm talking to my wife, and then it's like, whoa. Because you can't just like block it. It just shows up on your timeline. It's like, what? Jesus. That was basically my only exposure to him. And then, as you mentioned, he started tweeting us about the show and, sort of interacting from that perspective. And he started following me, and then I'm following him. And I'm like, Jesus, this guy has 10,000 followers. I mean, you don't get 10,000 followers because your patter is pish. Or you're just tweeting nonsense.
You post open vaginas.
Well, that's true. I mean, that doesn't.
Maybe he's just trying to prepare you for the birth, Graham. I don't know.
That doesn't. That's not my first rodeo, but as I followed him and we interact and all that kind of stuff, and I mean, he's been very complimentary of what we do, and I mean that certainly never hurts. But to your point, he does have some interesting stuff that he posts. And it's not all of the, where's the birds and all that kind of stuff. I mean, but I think that he's evolved into the parody account sort of realm. He's taken it away from the caricature aspect, and it's more of a tribute, where, as you mentioned, he picks and chooses his spots to interject that face, that Frank McAvaney, only an excuse
And I
face.
guess, Graham, the question I'd like to ask him is, has Frank himself ever acknowledged him?
That's a great question. I think you just did. I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah, well, maybe, but because
it'd be interesting to hear.
I wouldn't say he's ever disparaged the actual Frank McAvaney. I don't think he could with the stuff he's been up to over the years, quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, look, I think people might object to the photographs and things like that, and they're not everybody's cup of tea by any stretch of imagination. But I think everything that people tweet, they're never ever going to be really tweeters with like everything they tweet everybody likes. Do you know what I mean? No matter what it might be an offensive opinion, whatever you might say. So aye, I mean it's just like the thing I can say about him, he seems like a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah, I agree. And and the sort of cynicism, skepticism that I had on the front end about, oh, Jesus, here comes, one of these parody accounts. I mean, it was quickly sort of melted away, and I quite enjoy, what he tweets out and all that kind of stuff. So I figured that was an appropriate topic, appropriate target for tonight. And with that, we will wrap it up. Well, that does it for the 10th and final 10-in-a-row Celtic show, Paul.
And you got to disappoint the fans then, is that it?
It's been quite a summer. It's been it's been ups, it's been downs, it's been, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, this is where we are just now. New manager. It looks like, the entire character of this team is going to be unrecognizable. I think even within a few short months, and hopefully it's to the good. But, it's been extraordinary. I mean, I've had a lot of fun. We talked about the World Cup. We talked about I
remember that when we killed it with that.
We started this, I think, before we even had a manager.
Yeah, that's true, and I agree with you. I think the team will be unrecognisable for what it is right now, and by this time next year, I think there'll probably be none of the players that have been there last season will still be at the club, perhaps with the exception of the Scandinavian ones. So, But you have to answer the question, because everybody keeps asking me, are you going to disappoint the fans and not commit yourself to any more shows this season?
Yeah, no, I chucked it. I'm done.
No more shows this season?
No more regular shows. I'd like to look, as I've talked about in the past, I'd like to keep my toe in the water. I'd like to do perhaps one a month, maybe two a month, and I want to pick and choose my spots. I have some ideas of maybe some people that I'd like to talk to and get their perspectives and sort of expand on some things. But in terms of having a post game call in sort of deal,
No. That's not what I was meaning. I'm talking about this show.
Oh, like a 10-in-a-row? No, this is going to be it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
You should have played the Hulk music at that point.
Wilson, you fucking cunt.
well, I had that instead.
That's what all the listeners are saying to you right now.
I just look. You don't have to say it, all right? I just said it for you.
So
As long as they're talking about it.
yeah. Let's put you on the spot now then. So what you talking about doing? The people want to know what you're going to be doing this season. What's your ideas? I mean, we know Beyond the Waves post-game show is done. We know that. What we're asking is, what are you going to do this season? What's your ideas? How regularly are we going to hear from you? We know that you've committed yourself to the HailHailMedia Network, but what can you tell the people out there?
I'd like to do something once or twice a month at a time of my choosing, because I'm not certain when I'm going to have opportunities. You know, I'm certainly not going to have the opportunity to devote an entire day to watching the game and then doing a show, as I've done for the past 3 years. But there may be, you know, a Wednesday night here or there where, you know, I have some extra time and I'm working on a particular idea, or I'm talking to somebody that has a project going. Yourself, basically, that's basically who I have in mind, because I don't have anybody else in mind. So, I mean, yourself, I mean, and just talking to different people, you know, who have blogs, who have particular perspectives, and just seeing where the season takes us. I mean, you know, are we going to ride a wave? Is Dialogue going to get things clicked in? Are we going to get, you know, set sail with this? I mean, maybe reach out to some of the Scandinavian Celtic supporters and get, you know, some sort of feedback from them in terms of, like, what their experience is with Dialogue, or what their familiarities with Dialogue. Who knows? I mean, you know, trying to talk to more people internationally. And another thing that I think is something that is seriously underrepresented is the female presence within the Celtic support. I'd like to perhaps have an in-depth interview with some ladies, you know, who are Celtic supporters, and get a sense for what their perspective is, you know, and get a sense for what they sort of feel, you know, lends itself to a lady who's a Celtic supporters club, or a lady who's a Celtic supporter rather, and maybe some of the things that are challenges. I think that's a unique and interesting perspective. That's something that I've had on my mind for quite some time. Just things like that, you know, that I feel like haven't really been brought to the surface, but are interesting and are sort of questions that people ask themselves, and sort of fill that niche, if you will. I mean, because the Homeboys are back. They're doing a great job, you know, with the call-in and talking about the topics of, you know, each game and each week. And, you know, I think something different is in order.
So basically what you're saying is you want to talk to more women. You with Frankie Mack are still in the brain, I think.
Look, you. As you always like.
Anyway, the Homeboys isn't a call-in show anymore, remember?
Oh, that's true. Well, I don't know. You can call the Australians. They take calls, don't they?
Which Australians are you talking about?
Half the world, you know.
They're not Australians. They just are in Australia.
Well, whatever. Look, we're the human race, okay? We're all humans.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Heal the world.
Are we human?
Make it a better
Are we
place.
dancer? I don't care. You know, they live in Australia now. They're Australians.
Oh, look, stop babbling. So, anyway, you're talking about projects. I finished my part in my project on Sunday night.
Please expand. I was going to ask you about it. I know this is, I mean, a huge weight off your shoulders. I would assume. I would expect.
Yeah, well, I mean, so my involvement in the Asterisk years now is essentially to promote and try and sell the charity screening, and to then take the film on tour throughout the world, which is where it's going to go. And I would say there's probably, we released a few dates, 90% of which are solid and everything's sorted with them. Still waiting on a couple. There's a lot more dates to come. Venues in Australia, Ireland, England, maybe more in America, you know, things like that. So that's basically what I'm doing with that. In terms of the film, I was doing in Liverpool Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, to a recording studio to record the entire voiceover of the documentary, and then to record exactly the same voiceover to camera, so that you can use either or, basically, cut away, whatever, which was a long, long, long process.
Sure.
But of course, it was helped by the fact that I had a director who directed me, you know what I mean? Which is sort of, something I've never really experienced before, you know what I mean? Certainly in that kind of thing. And the process is so, and also had a producer talk to me about how to do it, how to frame the story, and how to, because what he was saying was it's an essay piece film that you're doing, so you have to do this, you have to do that, and so you're kind of like bewildered by it all, but then they know what they're doing because they've done documentaries before and all that. So done all that, and it was drank maybe 8 gallons of water in that time, because you're talking so much.
Oh yeah, that's brutal.
That you need to keep, it's like you need to stock up on the water, and then of course you're not eating, so you're pissing non-stop, and all these different things. You're in a studio, things like that, and like you say it this way, say it that way, say it three different types of way, right? Say that to the camera, emphasize that to the camera, right? When you say that word, say this, all that kind of thing, and just you just need to plough through it, Graham. They had similar experience doing this when I done the audiobook with Richard back in November, December last year, and the audiobook was a lot harder because I had no experience doing anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So I was tripping over words and all that kind of thing. The experience of the audiobook meant that I really never tripped over many words at all, and was able to just do the piece, to camera, so great, and the voiceover, and it was just, it was a long process, but and then of course, I was kind of overseeing the editing process as well, which was really, really good. It was you throw your ideas down, they throw your ideas back at you, different images and all that, and then you just kind of come up with something that you hope you can. And it's brilliant because the guys that are involved for that end, they're you wouldn't call them Celtic supporters by any stretch of the imagination. One's a Liverpool fan, one's an Everton fan, but the passion that they've shown for the project is inspiring.
Yeah.
Because they could just be robotic about it, do you know what I mean? And just be like, right.
Well, and that probably